What is up, guys? Today we're doing a long-awaited video that I got a lot of requests for a little bit back, and I just didn't have a chance to properly do it then, so I'm doing it correct now, so you can follow me through the process. We're installing a wideband O2 sensor. This is a standalone system. It doesn't really tie into any of the factory wiring. We are going to go ahead and try putting it into the factory wiring and see if Nistune will actually read it correctly. We'll see how well that goes. But I want to go ahead and start off. The one that I got was a Glow Shift Wideband sensor. This one is a little bit cheaper than I forget what the regular one name, like AEM. I think those ones are usually around $200, and I think this one was about $160. So this is what I got, and it's pretty simple. I'll go ahead and show you inside. It comes with a gauge cluster and a control box. So the gauge, it's a gauge pod, I guess. So basically you have an O2 sensor that goes into the control box, and then from the control box you have power in and all that good stuff. And then you have one wire that goes out into your gauge pod, and you also have an option for a wire out to a serial output, which we're going to go ahead and try to put into the original wiring to see if our ECU will figure anything out. The output does have, I'll show you on the back here, it's got a narrow band and a wide band. So we're going to go ahead and see. I'm going to do the wide band first, which is brown, I guess. And we're going to see if we can put that in, see if it'll figure it out. And, well, basically we're just going to get it all together. So I've already had this in my car for a little bit. I'll go ahead and show you. I do apologize. My car is in a few pieces at the moment. But a while back I did oil pressure and voltage on the center two right here, but now all I have is the wideband right here and nothing at the moment right there. I am working on an adapter plate to put in these, I think they're like 52 millimeter or something, gauge clusters, so you can just put them right in. You can use the factory things if you cut a hole in them. I just didn't want to cut a hole in mine. But basically you can see here's the box that we have. One of these is power, one of these goes up to this guy, and then here is the input from the wideband itself. So let's go ahead and jump right into installing the wideband, and it's pretty simple. If you have a stock downpipe, I don't think it's going to work for you. I'll go ahead and show you. This is what the factory O2 sensor looks like, and it uses a very old school kind of style of thread, and you can see the size difference between a new one and an old one. They're a little bit different. It's kind of difficult to tell. I believe this is the adapter for it though. I bought that separately, but you can tell it's a little bit different. So if you have the stock stuff, you might need to get a new bung welded onto it. But I have, of course, my NA2 T-swap. I got a custom downpipe and everything. So it's a little bit difficult to tell, but down in there, you can see that line right in the middle of the screen. That is the new wideband. So it comes up, it's this cable right here, and I have it running over that side. So there's the connector to it right there, and then that connector is going to go down through the firewall. I do want to go ahead and say that there is a grommet on the driver's side you can go through. I've never gone through that side. I've always gone through this one underneath the battery tray. There's a big, thick bundle of wires that go right through the firewall that I've always put stuff through. I've got power for my fuel pump and a couple different things that go through there. And that's always what I've gone through. So you can see this is my wire here, and it took me quite a long time to get it through this grommet. It is a pain in the butt every single time. It is really dark, so let me go ahead and try my best to shine this light in here. You can see there's the grommet right up there, and basically we have it coming through. So if you can get it through, that is 90% of your struggles. We're going to go ahead and put this into the box and wire a few more things up after this. Alright guys, let's go over the wiring really quick. It's super simple. Here are the instructions right here. So you can see we have, I'll zoom in, we have a yellow 12 volt constant source, and then a red 12 volt ignition source. So basically the red is when you turn your key, then it gets power, and the yellow is it always has power. The reason that you really want to hook up the yellow to a unswitched source is because it'll save all of your settings basically. This gauge, it will do different colors and it'll do different modes. You can have it beep at you when you're at one of the limits. So if you have an unswitched power source, it'll save that for you. I currently have both of mine, both the red and the yellow, going into a switched power source because that is all I have right now up here. And it doesn't work too bad. Basically, it's kind of difficult to tell. The needle will stay right there where it is when you turn your key off. So wherever it was last is where it will be. So I believe if you have it hooked up to a unswitched source, then it will drop back to wherever it's supposed to be. And every time I turn the key on, it has to recalibrate itself from the lower end to the high end. But it's not too big of a problem for me. I don't care too much. The only thing it doesn't do is save my settings. So there's this one that flashes through all of the colors because it is RGB, and it does this really cool, just like I'll show it to you when we turn it on, the different colors it has, and then like the rainbow effect. And it won't do that if you don't have a constant power source. So if you want to have stuff like that, you can. Otherwise, the default mode is a blue, which is actually pretty nice, and I don't really care too much about it. But jumping into the power source, we have our box right here. You can see this one is sensor, so we just plugged our sensor into that. This is analog output. That one will go to our ECU. We have gauge, which goes up to the gauge. This just plugs in. You don't have to do any wiring for that. And then you have power. Now the power, it's a really long bundle of cable because you can literally put this gauge anywhere in your car and it'll work. But the end of it ends up right here. Now it is kind of a bundle of wires, but I'll go ahead and walk you through it. This clip that I'm getting everything from, it comes up to the two gauges here originally. I did have an analog car, so if you have a digital, it might be a little bit different. Do not quote me on exactly what this is for digital, but I'll go ahead and show you. Basically, there's two wires on the back here we're going to tap into. This one is green. I don't think it has any. I think it's just solid. No, it's green with a little bit of red on it. And then this one is red with a green dashed line. Basically, the green one is a constant switched power. So whenever the key is switched on, that one has power. The red with the green dashed line, that one is a headlamp dimmer. So what I had done, you can see I got it spliced into two things right here. When I had two gauges up here, they had little bulbs in them to illuminate at night. They didn't have any backlighting normally, so they just had that turn on at night. So I had both of those wires going to each individual gauge. But now, since this already has a backlight, what these will do is they'll dim it. So at nighttime, it'll actually make it dimmer, and I'll go ahead and show you that too later. So now that we have those two, the orange wire is right there. You can see it's the 12 volt switched, and then black is vehicle ground. So you can see this is the black wire right here, and I literally just have it go up to this little bolt, and it grounds right there. You can ground to pretty much any bolt here. Some of these are taken up by the radio that goes in here, so you want to be careful what bolt holes you put things into, but that one is typically there already. So you can go ahead and just ground to that, and then your radio will slide over. It's no problem. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the analog output. You can see I've got it wired up here, and what I had done previously is I had another wideband sensor in here, but it wasn't independent. It didn't have its own wideband. It literally just read off the factory signal wire, which wasn't bad actually, but sometimes they're a little bit unprecise, and so I wanted to go ahead and get a real wideband in here. But I had this red wire coming up through here, and it goes all the way down to the ECU over there, that taps into the original signal wire. So what I went ahead and did, instead of running this whole thing all the way back down again, just for one wire, I just used this one that I already had in here. You can see it is just the brown. Again, on the instructions, it says that the brown provides the positive analog wideband voltage. So I went ahead and plugged this into the brown. The other two are unused. I don't need any of those. Actually, it does say the black is a negative ground reference for the analog narrowband and wideband, so I might go ahead and put the black, splice it into this guy right here, so that it will ground it. But I will go ahead and see, because I believe it might ground itself already in the ECU. We'll go ahead and see. I'll turn it on like this, see if the ECU reads anything, and if not, we'll go ahead and ground that and try it out. But either way, let me go ahead and show you the ECU side of the wiring. It's super simple. You just splice into one wire and call it a day. Alright guys, so here we are at the ECU. You can see it is plugged in, just right where it should be. And on this top, I'll go ahead and just unplug it since I can. This top connector right here, we've got one wire, this guy. It is, well, it's got black with a lot of red marks right there, so I have no idea. But it's the 5th pin from the very left side. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is this one. And basically this is your factory O2 sensor. So what I went ahead and did is, you can see, oops, sorry if you were not being able to see that. I spliced in right here with the butt connector, so I have the original circuit going straight through, and then this one was just a signal going back down and out. So that is where the other red wire came from. We can just go ahead and leave this in because I have the factory sensor unplugged, so it will not be sending any signal. So the only signal that this will be getting is from the red, now it's going to be a signal wire from our new sensor, and it'll go into the ECU. So we'll go ahead and plug that back in. And I do have the battery undone for all of this just because we don't want to accidentally short anything out. But I'll go ahead and plug the battery back on. I'll go ahead and show you the sensor, and then we'll hook this up to Nistune and see if we can get anything out of the actual sensor itself. Alright guys, so here we are in the car. I went ahead and put the battery back on, and we're going to go ahead and start it and see how this works. So I will go ahead and let you know my tune is not perfect, so don't expect this to be a good stoichiometric ratio at the beginning. I am still working on this after the NA2T swap, but it is getting there, so we should see the needle move into a semi-decent position. But what we'll go ahead and do is I'll show you, when I turn this into the on position, this will go ahead and illuminate. And it's calibrating itself. So that's what I was saying about it calibrating every time I start. I don't know if it will do that if you have a constant power. And now when it is flashing back and forth like that, it is heating the actual O2 sensor. So even if you start the car yet, you won't get any good readings until it stops heating the sensor. So I'll go ahead and I'll start the car. I need 2 hands for this, I apologize. And I do have a big vacuum leak, I forgot. So it is running rich. So that flashing right there, when it stops going back and forth between the two and it's just the red light, that means that it is at a limit. So it does it on the lower and the upper end. I'll go ahead and show you. This is the color button. You can change the colors. Oh, let me go ahead and refocus. So these color selections are what I was talking about. I don't want to push this thing through. It's such a finicky guy. There we go. So you can see it's got a bunch of different colors, really nice. And this is the color change, I believe. Yeah, you can see it's rainbow. So it's actually a really nice sensor, and then this set button will change it. It'll beep at you if you get towards the ends. So you can see I'm actually running really close to where it should be right now. 14.7 is perfect stoichiometric ratio. So even though I do have a vacuum leak, I'm running pretty good. And this is all changeable in Nistune as well, and I'll try to get a video out for that. But there you go, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and pull Nistune up and see if it is giving any useful information or if we need to ground it out. Alright guys, here we are in Nistune. You can see we have our gauges up, and right up here in the top corner is our O2. So let's go ahead. What we want to do is want to wait for this to stop doing that again. But let's go ahead and start the car real quick. Alright, we have the car started. You can see this is still flashing back and forth, so we'll give it a little bit of time to figure itself out. And you can see while it's doing that, we are peaking at 2.55. Oh, you missed it. But now it looks like it is going to change with our actual O2 sensor. So if I rev it, then it looks like it's definitely changing properly. Because it does go up and then back down, and that's exactly what this was doing. So it looks like that it works without having to ground it out. So there you go, guys. This has been the wideband O2 install. Let me go and turn this off. Alright. And if you guys have any questions about this install, I'll go ahead and try to answer them to the best I can. It is super simple. This is pretty much plug and play. I'm very happy with how this Glow Shift one worked, and it was definitely a lot cheaper than the AEM stuff. So if you guys have any questions, drop a comment down below, and I will see you guys later.